I am Judy Somers, and Ashley is our concierge for today. However, our guest speakers for today are each one of you. So our first question, what is active learning? Ooh, look at this. Look at this. Great responses. Um, Active learning, it's a process. Absolutely. Um, Engaged, yep. Passively, I don't know. That's an interesting. We'll have to see how that plays out. Activities, contributions, engaging, yep, directly. Uh, Lectures, parties. Wait a minute. Did I miss something here? Techniques, interaction, sharing information, student engagement, interpretation, discovery, excitement. Yeah, it definitely can be. Technique. Let's see what else we have. Listening, watching, participating, mental. Okay. So we've got a lot of really good comments and perceptions in here about it. So essentially, it's activities that students are engaged in to construct knowledge and reinforce their understanding of those concepts. The way that they think about what they're doing and thinking about their thinking, which, as we know, is metacognitive. So things that they do to help them understand and construct knowledge. It truly involves higher order thinking, because in order to concentrate, to be able to focus on what needs to happen, you have to think it through. So it becomes metacognitive in nature, and that creates the link between the activity and the learning when we're actually engaged in thinking about what we're doing and how it interacts in there. And please feel free to add comments in the chat or in the conversation, whatever works for you. And it truly goes back to Vygotsky and his the foundations of the constructivist theory, the scaffolding, that the idea that learning actually takes place when students solve problems beyond their current developmental level with the support of their instructor or their peers. And that's one of the things that we've all picked up on, that we understand how we construct our own knowledge. Another resource of mine, and I have the original one posted up here, but there is also a second one now, is the how people learn, the whole ideas. And I usually think of it in terms of Bransford, who's one of the editors for this. But individuals learn through building their own knowledge and connecting the new ideas and experiences to existing knowledge that they already have, and in order to form new learning and a deeper understanding of the learning that we have. So that's some of the foundations for these concepts. So I love this example of the effectiveness, and this image was from Photos for Class, which is all of the images that are there are free to use. And one of the nice things about this one, we have quite a few resources for information that is free to use, and I will happy to share those with you along the way. One of the things that I like about this one is that the images come with the attribution already attached, as you can see on the bottom. So a clear visual of students who are actively engaged in what's going on. It looks like it could easily be college students strewn out across the campus, which I love. Freeman and his colleagues, and will be in the reference listing at the end, conducted a meta-analysis of 225 studies comparing constructivist versus exposition-centered course designs in STEM disciplines. And they found that the evidence for the benefits of active learning are really very, very strong. And this is a quote: make sure I get it correct for you. If the experiments analyzed here had been conducted as randomized controlled trials of medical interventions, they may have been stopped for benefit, meaning that enrolling patients in the control condition might be discontinued because the treatment being tested was clearly more beneficial. And so from a couple of articles, and I think I have that on my next, I think I have this quote on my next slide. Let me see. Yeah. The classes I remember the most are the classes that got me involved. And of course, that makes sense. Actively involve me in the process of learning. I wasn't a vessel to be filled. I was doing the pouring. And so that's indeed the way we remember things. If you stop and think back about items, about situations, about experiences that you've had when you were actively involved in what was going on, it really sticks closer in your memory bank. So I'm gonna go, let me get the second one open for you here. Because we're going to go back into the Slido for our second posting. Examples of active learning, yeah, discussion board definitely is. Sharing personal experiences and commentaries clearly are. When we think about active learning, and one of the things based on our Quality Matters standards is that active learning should involve 3 components. And we'll take a look at some of these to make sure that we've included all 3 of them. Certainly it is the student to the instructor. Of course, that definitely is one of them. But it should also be student with the content, which is probably an assumption that we all make, that, yeah, this should be happening for sure. But it also needs to be student to student. And so that's where groups and discussions, obviously several discussions were mentioned several times in this. Excuse me. Video is a great one, and one of the video tools that we like to use that certainly gets students involved with each other is Flipgrid. So video use, it gets us students involved in there, and let's see, personal experience, WIT, using the whiteboard. I saw Blackboard pop up and then move around, so it's probably on there somewhere. Blackboard as the tool that has been in classrooms forever and ever, but as well as a tool that we have used. Padlet Wall is up there, and that's a great interactive tool. We will be sharing that in some of our other training sessions. Simulations, and I have a feeling that probably comes from some of our people who've joined us in the field of nursing, because there are a great deal of simulations and case studies that are used in the field of nursing that actually get students literally involved with the content, with each other, and sharing those informations. Yeah, thank you for pointing those out. the experience, common journals. Yes, that's another great place. And by the way, if you are interested, let us know, because we have a couple of journal tools that some of our faculty have been using that really work very well in Canvas. I know where that was one of the frustrations when we did our initial migration over, but we have a journaling tool that works well. Let's see what else we have. Embedded discussion boards, certainly. Reflections are a great way of having engagement within our courses. Sharing material, groups, discussion online, video, pairing up. A lot of faculty that I have worked with recently are having students working in pairs in order to accomplish something, some way of interacting and some way of preparing presentations. And group work certainly is an excellent one. The presentations actually as a means of providing sharing the information with the rest of the class, and again could be within the discussion board. What else do we have on here? Some great ideas. Thank you for that. So some of the strategies that can be, of course, face-to-face or online, and these are just a few that I just threw in there. Obviously, from what we saw on the Slido, we have a whole lot more than that. Within traditional and it works, most of them work as well online. Discussions, certainly a discussion board, and depending on how you set your discussion boards up, how involved your students get, and how much really deep thinking they put into it and interacting with each other. I've seen some really dynamic discussion boards. Hands-on learning, of course, that would be pretty much in face-to-face, although we do have some online labs that are available now, and there's labs, group work. Experiential learning and project-based learning are two really effective student engagement tools and ways of getting the students really involved in active learning. Within technology, of course, there's a whole lot of opportunities for, and this is just barely scratching the surface. The simulations, and I know that there's quite a few departments and colleges that use the simulations in order to get the students really into what they're going to be dealing with when they get out there in the field. On games within the environment are also a great way. Self-assessments are another great tool to try to check our learning, see where we are. Clickers, I'm not sure, are used as much anymore with the various types of tools. Padlet is one of the things that was mentioned in the previous item in Slido. Padlet is a great tool. Kahoot as a game, often used as a review activity. Even Google Slides can be posted and added to and shared as a part of the interaction within the course. Students being able to engage both with each other and with the content. And then in the blended one, we've got the whole flipped learning idea, or the hybrid perspective of being able to delve deeply into the content outside of the class, the live classroom or asynchronous classroom, and then the whole blended learning concept. So let's look at some examples. Where we're talking about online strategies, particularly since we have a focus for online. Synchronous classes give you a really effective opportunity to engage with the students, to be involved with them, even in an online environment. And I will show you an example of something from one of the synchronous classes. Collaborative groups are really, really a strong means of having the students actively engaged, both with each other, with the content, and then with being able to share their results. I'm working on a similar type of project, or will be later on in the semester, with the class, one of the classes that I teach, where they're going to be doing research and then coming together as a group, putting their research together, and then sharing it in a unique way. And I'll show you that in just a moment. And I am a proponent of concept maps because I think this is an excellent way. I'm going to show you one of those as well. So those are some examples of online strategies that can be used to promote, again, active learning and student engagement. So this is an example from a asynchronous class. So this is one where when I did a synchronous class with a group of students, I put up a blank slide and invited them to post the questions about, and this one was about alternatives to exams. And so the boxes that you see are where they were able to type on the screen, and they were also able to write on the screen and make comments, so you can see what those are. They were able to change their font color. So being within the synchronous environment where we're not all in the same room, we all happen to be on the computer at the same time, if indeed you have it set up so that you can do that, and invite them to share their comments and to be able to interact with each other through that type of a format. Collaborative groups. This is this is an example of the final project for a class that I'm teaching right now, because they are learning, thanks to our amazing library people, they are learning how to do library research. This is an undergrad class. And so they're doing their own research on a particular subset of a topic, and then coming together with others who worked on the same topic and combining to see what the overlap was in their research. So then they will be working together to create a visual presentation at the end of the class time. So working within collaborative groups, working with each other, seeing how they interact, seeing what things connect for each one of them. And please, again, know that you're welcome to make any comments. This is an example of a concept map that I have used in classes. Poplet is one of the online tools that creates concept maps, and it has the ability, these are where they had the ability of linking out to either a website. They could link out to websites, they can link to documents, they can link to videos to include, so that they made a comparison of two different forms of educational formats.
Hey, Judy, we have a comment from Kimberly.
Yes.
She says, I have learned that working with collaborative groups was beneficial to me. The only issue would be if the direction of the project is not clear.
If the direction was not what?
Clear.
Clear?
Yes, clear.
Okay. Yes. And that is truly a challenge within doing collaborative group work, is making sure that you are really, really specific in what your expectation is. And we have several tips and tools for helping to make that happen. One of them is to have checkpoints along the way so that everybody knows the expectation and what has to be created and how they have to work together. Yeah, and that's one of those lessons that I have tended to learn along the way. Sometimes learn in a difficult way, but yeah, collaborative groups are can be very, very effective. And if the expectation isn't clearly set out for them, then it loses a little bit in the translation. Yeah, definitely. And thank you for that, Kimberly. So this is one example of concept maps. I tend to use them a lot because I like the visual of being able to make those comparisons and being able to include the visuals in it. The tool that I use more often than this has a lot of, includes a lot of visuals, but they can also be added in to it as well. And so this was, I really found this to be an interesting article. And again, I have the list of resources available that I will also share with you. But this is from an article that has comments from the students on the active learning process. So the change of pace for them, doing something different, requiring our students to participate rather than just sit and get. And that I have found is one of the really great parts of online learning, is that our role changes a good bit actually to facilitator, and so that, because in order for students to really accomplish within an online class, they have to be willing to get themselves in there and get involved. And when we do that, when they are actively involved in it, they really understand the material and absorb it, go back into their own long-term memory, because they have taken something, they've worked with it, they've melded it, molded it with their neural passageways, and created it into something. They've taken new material, connected it to material that was already existing, making those really important connections. Plus, it allows them to get to know each other. The concept that an online class is isolated and I'm all by myself out here is way back in the dark ages of online learning, because now the interaction is as vibrant as in a face-to-face class, sometimes more so. And it gives us the opportunity to look at things from a different perspective. Please know that you can check in with us at any time. We always have ideas and things to share.
I'm getting pushback from some math and science faculty who don't seem to believe these sessions are necessary.
Yes, yeah, and I would think that both of those, while it seems a little counterintuitive, particularly in math, to think of a discussion, and yet what better way than to have something posted and said, here's how I thought would be a good way to approach this, and someone else say, hey, I like that idea, I tried it this way and here's what worked. Science, I would think, would be a great place for discussions. Having taught science in lower grades, not in college, the idea of sharing information and sharing ideas about whatever it is we are working on or looking at, or whatever experiment we might be doing. So sharing those ideas, I think, would really be a valuable piece of it. Team-based discussions. I like that. Yeah, changing teams can be a challenge, but it's also an effective tool. Ah, great. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Here to absorb information from those with experience. However, don't be too quick to put your own ideas down, because it's often the new ones that come in with some fresh ideas. So we're open to everything from everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. This is some really good information. Yeah, Slido is definitely easy to use. And they have incorporated it, have created a way of incorporating it in if you use Google Slides, to where it is just an automatic way of putting it in. I typically don't use Google Slides, but they are working on it through PowerPoint as well. But Slido is a part of it, really works well. And this switching back and forth in this hasn't been too cumbersome. I hope it hasn't been on from your end.
We have someone saying that they would like to try games like Jeopardy. This comment is coming from Manihal.
And there are some really effective. I'm going to make myself a note to try to track that down, because there are some really good Jeopardy type of games. And it's definitely a fun thing to do for students. And made myself a note to track that down and see what we have on that. See what we come up with.
We also have Nancy. She says, I love what has been covered. Would like to hear more about how to create the journal feature in Canvas. And will you also cover the topic of Adobe Spark and examples and experience on using this tool in a future webinar?
Yes, and we talked a little bit about the Adobe Spark activity that was done in one of the classes, and we'll let's put our heads together, and I will invite you to join me, and we can talk about how to make that work and create a session for it as well. Does not have Romance or English letters. Interesting. Writing a new language directly to the computer. Oh, this sounds like an interesting opportunity for all of us to learn. Reach out to me, and we'll have a lengthy conversation about that, because I'm sure we can make it work for you. So, what did we learn from all of this? Well, we have come up with a definition and some ideas about what it is, and more importantly, the research-based evidence of the effectiveness, why we want to do it. Because the more engaged our students are, the more they're going to get out of our classes. We've shared some real life examples. We've heard the student voice, and we have a group here that are willing to jump in there and try something new. Thank you for that. I love your enthusiasm, and please don't hesitate to reach out. This is the references for some of the material that I have used in there. I don't think I put it in here. Next week is, I believe, metacognition. I'll have to double check that, and I will make sure it's in the slide presentation when we finish up. So any other comments? I so appreciate, let me see if I've got this. Yeah, so appreciate you joining in and you being willing to interact and to share with us, because that's really what makes this valuable. I do not have all of the information that any of us needs, but all of us together, what we put in together is what makes it such a valuable learning experience. So I thank you, my amazingly awesome guest speakers for today, or guest presenters. And thank you, Chantal. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you being so dedicated and joining in, and all of you. Thanks so much. And I look forward to your comments and to sharing with you next week. Thank you.